Hello and welcome back. Today we're diving into a topic that shapes every student's daily life: bias. Bias isn't just something adults deal with. It's a natural part of how all of us, including children and teens, think and make decisions. It forms from our experiences, emotions, and even the way our brains are wired. But here's the big question. Should schools actually teach students about how bias works? Imagine if understanding bias could help students think more clearly, make better choices, and even improve classroom relationships. In this video, we'll explore what bias really is, how it forms, and why teaching its science could be a game changer for education. Let's get started by understanding what bias actually means. Bias is basically a mental shortcut. Our brains are constantly flooded with information, so they use patterns to help us make quick decisions. For example, if you once felt nervous giving a presentation, your brain might decide that public speaking is always scary, even if the situation changes. These shortcuts aren't always bad, but they can lead us to make assumptions that aren't true. Understanding this helps us see that bias is a natural process, not a personal flaw. As we move forward, let's look at how the brain actually creates these biases and why they stick with us, especially during our school years. There are two main ways the brain creates bias. First, cognitive shortcuts, also called heuristics, help us save energy by making fast decisions. But these shortcuts can sometimes lead to mistakes or false beliefs. Second, emotional memories play a big role. When something triggers a strong emotion, like embarrassment or fear, the brain remembers it more vividly. That's why a single awkward moment in class can shape how a student feels about similar situations for years. These patterns show that bias isn't just about logic. It's deeply connected to our feelings and past experiences. Next, let's see why teaching this science in schools could make a real difference. Why should schools teach the science of bias? First, it helps students become better critical thinkers. When they recognize their thoughts might come from shortcuts, they can question and improve their reasoning. Second, it boosts academic skills. Students who understand bias are more likely to excel in reading, writing, math, and science because they challenge their own assumptions. Third, it improves relationships. Bias awareness can reduce misunderstandings and conflicts, making classrooms more supportive and inclusive. By teaching bias, schools can help students grow not just academically, but also socially and emotionally. Bias doesn't just stay in the classroom. It affects friendships, confidence, and even future choices. For instance, a student might believe they're bad at math because of one tough experience, or a teacher might unconsciously favor certain students. Teens might avoid new challenges simply because their brains assume it will be hard. When students learn how these patterns form, they gain the power to break them and replace them with healthier, more accurate beliefs. This understanding can lead to better decisions, stronger self-esteem, and more open-minded relationships both in and out of school. People worry that teaching bias is too advanced for students since it involves neuroscience and psychology. Others think it might make students overthink, or that teachers aren't prepared to explain these ideas. These concerns are valid, but they don't mean we should avoid the topic. Schools can start with simple, age-appropriate lessons. Even basic awareness of bias can make a huge difference in how students think and interact. By starting small and teaching simply, we can give students tools that last a lifetime. Bias is something everyone experiences, but understanding it can change everything. Teaching students about the science behind bias isn't about telling them what to think. It's about helping them understand how they think. By learning about the brain's shortcuts and emotional patterns, students gain more control over their decisions, reactions, and beliefs. In a world full of information and social pressure, this knowledge isn't just helpful, it's essential. Thanks for joining today's breakdown. Remember, understanding bias leads to stronger, clearer thinking. See you in the next video.